Chapter 1. One Last Run. A curse escaped his lips as the wind whipped his parachute, dragging him 20 feet from the drop site where he landed. Projectiles flew through the air coming from his left. He struggled to unbuckle the harness, shedding the chute. The wind took it, but Major Matt Hawk Morgan didn't care. He ducked, rolled, and sought cover. Behind him, his team, consisting of a young captain by the name of Nathan James Oliver, Sergeant Jason Lee Gordon, Sergeant Harold Tyler, Sergeant Marcus Dubose, and Sergeant Hank Jimenez, followed suit. In the field, his men were a well-oiled, lethal machine. He didn't call them by their given names here, but rather their code names: Outlaw, Doc, Eastwood, Skyscraper, and Hollywood. Each knew their role, and he trusted them with his life. A good thing, because this mission inside Syria was turning into a crap cluster fast. Hawk signaled Outlaw, pointing west beyond a crumbled, burned-out building to another still standing. Although the sun had yet to rise, the sky was beginning to lighten behind them. In another hour, there would be nowhere to hide. Outlaw pulled out his night vision goggles and surveyed the area. A small movement atop the building caught his eye. He adjusted the focus and whispered the coordinates to Eastwood. The big man with the rough red beard got into position, dropped his M4, swung around his baby, a Remington 700 bolt-action sniper rifle, and took aim. "Easy, Harry," said Hawk. "We may not get another shot at him." Eastwood's lips twisted in mock offense. "When have I ever missed?" "Well, today isn't the day to screw up your perfect record, just saying." The major turned to Skyscraper and Hollywood. "Draw his fire. In 3, 2... Hawk went silent as his fingers continued the countdown. Skyscraper and Hollywood raised up from behind the dilapidated stone wall and pulled their triggers. A volley of shots flew in the general direction of the rooftop sniper. As expected, the shooter angled to his right, sighting the direction from which those shots came. As he peered over the edge and prepared to fire, Eastwood exhaled and pulled the trigger. The sniper didn't even get off a round. His body slumped, dropping out of view from Outlaw's night vision goggles. Hawk issued orders. "Outlaw, Eastwood, and Doc with me. Skyscraper, Hollywood, take the backside and find a way up. Let's make sure there aren't any others. Once we secure the corner, we can work our way out and take the field." The field, as Hawk called it, was an area called Conoco, so named after the gas company that once operated the wells. The Islamic State were making a massive push to gain control of the oil and gas in that region. This could not be allowed to happen. With that goal in mind, the president ordered U.S. troops back into Syria to retake the fields in the east. The order came down the pike right after Hawk put in all his paperwork for retirement. 20 years in the Army and countless missions, the decorated Green Beret now looked forward to spending the rest of his life embarking on adventures and camping out in his backyard, reconnoitering the grocery store for good steaks, and sitting on the sofa every evening with his beautiful wife Lorraine. She had stuck by him through thick and thin, raising their 2 daughters who now attended college while he was deployed, all without complaint. He owed her so much, and he couldn't wait to begin their life together as empty nesters. But orders came down for one last run. He remembered their last night together. "You come home to me, Matt Morgan, in one piece," she admonished. He had laughed then, mostly because it was hard to take Lorraine seriously when she was naked, and also because it was what she told him the night before he left for every mission. They had a ritual, one for which they never failed to follow through. When given enough of a heads up, they spent the final night before he moved out making love. No matter what was going on in their life, problems with the girls, bills due, or any anger between them, they put it aside and celebrated their love for each other. Lorraine began that tradition in the first year of their marriage, insisting it was important. "What if?" she said, her eyes reflecting her inner turmoil. He had gently shushed her, one finger over her lips. "I'll always come back to you, Lorraine. Never doubt it." Her eyes had misted over that first time. "I love you, Matt." He kissed her then, softly, sweetly. "I love you more." Even 19 years of marriage later, they still stuck to both the ritual and the script. No matter what, they said their I love yous and followed up by showing each other just how much. As they spooned in the pre-dawn hours yesterday morning, she whispered, "All I want for Christmas this year is my husband, right back here by my side in our bed." He smiled at the memory, but squelched it as another round of fire came from somewhere down the long stretch of crumbled buildings. "Move!" The order flew from his mouth as the man fell in line behind him. They ran for the building, Skyscraper and Hollywood laying down cover fire as they went. Hawk's eyes widened as he listened. A loud rumble of engines drew all their attention. From the south, a line of upwards of 40 vehicles roared towards them. Under the waning light of the moon, Hawk could see the Islamic State flags flying from the truck beds. "Men, we have company," he grunted, running for the front door. More shots fired, one projectile zinging past his ear. Someone punched him in the shoulder blade, knocking the wind out of him as he kicked open the door. Outlaw and Doc ran in behind him, followed by Eastwood, Skyscraper, and Hollywood. The last two quickly found the stairs and made their way up to the third floor. Eastwood, Doc, and Outlaw closed the steel door and looked around for something to shove up against it. "Does the lock work?" Hawk asked. Doc flipped the latch. "Yeah, but it won't keep them out." He looked around and, working with his teammates, hauled over a large wooden desk and 2 chairs, shoving them against the door. The windows were already covered with boards, compliments of the IS sniper, no doubt. Hawk's two-way radio crackled. "Clear on the roof, we have the building," said Skyscraper. "They're surrounding us." Thinking fast, Hawk answered, "Hollywood, bring that body down. They don't know he's dead, and we might be able to hold him off if they think we have a hostage." "Roger that." Outlaw and Eastwood continued fortifying their position, making sure all windows were shuttered and no doors left vulnerable. Doc turned and looked at Hawk. He blinked twice, and then his expression changed. "What?" Hawk asked. "What's wrong?" Doc pointed. "You're bleeding." The young medic moved fast, closing the distance between them. Hawk looked at his chest, then inspected his limbs, seeing the blood dripping down his arm. Suddenly, he felt weak as a kitten. His knees buckled and he slid to the floor. "Outlaw!" Doc shouted. He reached out, grabbing his commander by the shoulders, his concerned brown eyes searching for the source of the bleeding. Outlaw came running. "What is it?" Doc rolled a now panic-stricken Hawk to his side, following the dark red stain on his commander's fatigue sleeve. He looked at Outlaw. "Hawk's been shot." He pointed to the hole in the material on the back of Major Morgan's left shoulder. The bullet hit just to the outside of his Kevlar vest, but there was no exit wound on the other side. The Major's skin was ashen now, and a sheen of sweat broke out on his forehead. "How bad is it, Doc?" he panted. "I don't know yet. I need to get this off you and have a look." Doc began unbuckling the vest, careful not to move Hawk any more than necessary. Once removed, he tossed it aside, and Outlaw helped unbutton his shirt and slip the arm out of the sleeve. Doc could see the gunshot wound clearly now. It was bleeding heavily, and Hawk was panting for each breath. He glanced at Outlaw and shrugged to show he wasn't sure, but it didn't look good. Too much blood. The captain's expression was grim. He turned his attention back to the Major, whose eyes were fixed on his face. "It's bad, isn't it?" Hawk said. Outlaw patted his arm. "It looks bad, but we don't know. Can you breathe? How do you feel?" He asked these questions as Doc opened his medical bag and began doing what he could to staunch the flow of blood. He pulled out a D-Stat dry pack kit and began packing the wound. Hawk took another shallow breath, his face pained. "Feels like I got the wind knocked out of me. I thought you punched me when we ran in. I was kind of pissed and was going to call you out about it later, but I guess now we know it wasn't you. Damn." Doc wrapped the shoulder tight and reached for a butterfly needle, attaching it to an IV bag tubing. "How's your pain?" "It hurts like a mother." The needle plunged into his arm, and the sound of tape ripping off the spool filled the room. Cold fluid hit Hawk's vein, and Doc looked around for a spot to hang the IV bag. "Sorry about that, Major, but you need fluids to prevent volume loss in your blood." Hawk cringed, knowing things weren't good, but his mind refused to quit. He reached for Outlaw's arm, grabbing it. "You need to take over. Call in a CSAR team. Tell them the need is immediate and your commander is down. Gaslight these terrorists for as long as you can. We're surrounded. Outlaw nodded, reaching for the sat phone. Hawk struggled to keep lucid through the pain. Pain was good, he told himself. It reminded him he was still alive. Outlaw, hold the line until our boys get here. We're in deep ditch water here, but you can do this. Get us out of it. Get me home to my wife. His voice trailed off as he concentrated on breathing. He felt weak and his brain desperately wanted to shut off. A loud crash interrupted the sudden silence as a body came rolling down the stairs. The dead sniper from the rooftop flipped over, landing awkwardly on the ground floor. Hollywood ran down the steps after it. Sorry, he slipped. He reached down and pulled the body over to the wall and leaned the dead man against it. He stood, turning to look at Outlaw and Doc. It was then he noticed Hawk on the floor. His eyes bugged. Shit! What happened? Is he dead? Outlaw shook his head. No, but he will be if we don't get us all out of this mess fast.